On this episode, we discuss Triple H being on Stone Cold's podcast, Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan at FastLAne, Ambrose, Wyatt, and more now on Byte That. Welcome everybody, you are listening to episode 76 of Byte That, the somewhat, maybe international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which is witches. Thanks for tuning in, checking out the show. Remember, we are available every single Tuesday night on Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, ByteThat.com, and of course you can check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. My name is Juan Velas. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico. And as always, I am joined first all the way from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Keith Poshik, people.
You know, Juan, I don't mention it to a lot of people, but Wiccan is actually a huge thing in my life. So really? You're exposing me today.
That is interesting, man, because
I really don't know what Wiccan is, so...
I'm just pretending to go along with it because I don't know what the hell it is, because the guy that wrote it almost didn't make it to the podcast. So from Boston, Mass, by the way of all the snow that was probably being plowed in the way, Ryan McNulty.
Yeah, well, I guess you guys need to watch more Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something, but to up on your Wiccan knowledge. But I am actually here. Know that. Yeah, we got hit with another storm, and once again, unlike Canada, we apparently can't handle it. You know, less lanes on the street because of all the snow equals more traffic, but I am dedicated to Byte That, and that's why I'm here.
Do you guys have this weird thing like me that whenever somebody says the word Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the theme just starts playing in your head immediately?
You know, I don't actually remember... I don't really remember the Buffy theme as much as I remember the Angel theme, which is weird because I didn't watch Angel pretty much at all.
See, I've never seen an episode of Angel, so I have no point of reference.
One thing that we have seen is an episode of Monday Night Raw.
That is a segue of champions.
Yes, do this thing, man. We got some interesting things to bring up, as we always do, because obviously we got Monday Night Raw. Then last week we find out we were going to be getting a brand new edition of the Stone Cold podcast with Triple H. Obviously, Vince McMahon was the first interview in this interesting podcast that's not kayfabe, but it takes place just after Raw. So guys just go out of character. There's all these things. But before the podcast, it was revealed that Triple H was going to be making a groundbreaking announcement. They were tweeting pictures about Dean Ambrose, how it will affect him, how will it affect other guys. Lo and behold, what we find out is that they were trying to basically undo the damage, which is weird because I think we all sort of figured out, okay, they're just going to go with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar and everything else, and then we're just going to get Dolph Ziggler versus Daniel Bryan, which was what we've been seeing on Twitter the past week. So just sort of part one, what was your reaction when you found out that this was happening? You know, Roman Reigns came out, D-Bry and all that, and we sort of saw the writing on the wall.
I don't really think that undoing the damage is the right way to put it. It's more like a damage control situation where now this gives them a little bit of like time to figure out what exactly they're going to do, because now it's not set in stone anymore that it's going to be Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, because now once again all these what ifs happen just to make us feel like, oh my god, this could actually happen, even though it won't.
To go along with what Keith said, I don't necessarily it may seem like it's giving them an out in case, you know, Reigns doesn't really work out, but I think it is more or less a way to give the crowd a false sense of hope that maybe something will be different, and at least keep things interesting so that the main event doesn't seem like it's set in stone, but more than likely it is.
It almost seems like the biggest problem that they have is the fact that the Royal Rumble is in January, because now that you only have one title, how do you keep things interesting from then until late March, early April, when you have this whole other pay-per-view that you have to plan around?
I think they chose the best possible option, which is we may still get Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar.
But really, here, that's the word you're going to use, may.
Yes. No, but realistically, though, now we just have to wait till FastLane to maybe just get that confirmation, but we don't know that until then. We can speculate here all we want, but the fact of the matter is WWE did a good job of getting Daniel Bryan involved. They did a very good job also of sort of acknowledging that, yeah, D-Bry was injured. Triple H was referring to the fact that, D-Bry should have gotten his rematch clause, but he felt like he should be in the Rumble. So, he couldn't just get that rematch clause because, hey, you were in the Rumble. Too bad. You lost. So there was this option then, which we'll get to, which is Seth Rollins versus D-Bry, and then the winner of that would go on to face Roman Reigns, who we obviously found out was Dana Bryan. But before we get to that, because I know there's a lot of things tied to this, including the Stone Cold podcast, I want to get to the other announcement that Triple H was really talking about, which is that at FastLane, he's not going to be facing Sting. He's going to be calling out Sting, which to me is weird, because it's like, can't you just call him out right now? Do you need to wait for the network show? But that's another story. What do you think about this? And what can we realistically expect to happen at FastLane?
I think we can expect some sort of confrontation where, Sting does his little tricks and gets the best of Triple H or something like that, and it alludes to a WrestleMania match. I don't think it's going to be anything more than that. It's basically just hey, you should buy the network for WrestleMania so you get to see Sting fight.
Exactly. It's more like hey, you want to see Sting? Well, here's the next time he's going to be here, so buy it. But I think the real interesting thing is, are they going to give Sting a microphone? Is Sting going to talk, or is Sting going to continue to be this silent character?
And if he does talk, what will Sting say? Because he's so out of the loop. He's never been involved here, so what's he going to do? Put over John Cena, talk about the Authority? It just seems so weird that they are going to be having this. And obviously, I'm assuming they're going to have him talk, because if you're waiting all the way until FastLane, which is where we may get confirmation, that they'll have this WrestleMania match between them, he's got to do something. Maybe bring out the bat, just something happen.
See, I'm of the opposite mind in that, because if you look back and think of the best times Sting has had, especially in WCW, it's when he didn't say a word. Like, he could just point the bat at Triple H and say everything he needs to say in that respect. So maybe they don't make Sting talk.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me, honestly. I think if he's going to talk, he'll say enough that it works. And if he doesn't talk, it just makes him seem more mysterious and everything. So honestly, either way is fine with me. I just, I want something cool to happen. And I want it to seem like it's a big deal. And they really kind of have to they have to speed up this feud a little bit, because there's really only been one or two segments for this. So, and how many more appearances is Sting even going to have? So they got to really put some good development in for this.
Yeah, and I feel it still needs a little bit something else, because obviously they tried to justify why this may be a match. Oh, so, I didn't take care of Sting at Survivor Series, so now I will. I'm calling you out at FastLane. But it's too loose. It doesn't feel personal enough. It doesn't feel like it should be a match. It feels like there should be some kind of intervention, but not a match itself.
And much like every other Triple H feud that's happened in the last 5-6 years, give or take, where does Shawn Michaels fit into all of this?
That's true, because he always
shows up.
Finds some way to show up. Yeah, to super kick Daniel Bryan and then fade away, and then that never happens. Little things like that get a little bit annoying. So I'm hoping that he doesn't really show up. I just want to point out, as we're talking, does Ryan's
radiator thing.
Yeah, radiator.
I need to fix this bad boy. Crazy. It's annoying as hell.
You need to fix this. But yeah, so Ryan's magically gone for the podcast a little bit.
No,
he's having a little bit of a feud.
Shawn Michaels probably isn't going to be involved in this, all right? This is the one time he's not going to be involved, because he has no history with Sting whatsoever. They can't find a way to shoehorn it in.
Well, yeah, but let's wait until FastLane to really see what's going to happen, because I think that's when this feud is really going to kick up steam. Now, I want to get to the main event of Raw, because obviously I think we're still doing this whole crowd control, damage control thing with Roman Reigns, because was I the only one that felt like this, once again, much like the Rumble, was made to look like Roman Reigns is the guy you need to cheer for. Even though he wasn't officially in the match, he was a big portion of what Daniel Bryan won.
I find it interesting that they chose to make Daniel Bryan win with an assist from Roman Reigns.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you would figure that you want to make him look strong, but at the same time, you don't want to make Seth Rollins look weak. So having said that, what are your reactions about how they're trying to keep sort of Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan as a buddy-buddy? They had this backstage segment also where they're talking, and they don't really do that anymore. So the fact that they even had that type of segment really shows that they're just trying to do something. Just something to get people to make sure they like him.
It's almost like they're trying to use Daniel Bryan to rub off on Roman Reigns. Kind of like, hey, you all like Bryan. Well, Bryan respects Roman, so you should all like Roman too.
Yeah, it is interesting. In Reigns, I think they dialed him back a little bit. They didn't go too hammy with the promos or anything like that. They were a lot better with not talking about Jack and the Beanstalk and things like that. God. You know, the only thing I would say about Reigns, if I was going to kind of make any type of criticism, is if you noticed in the opening promo, just he is way too quiet, like speaking into the microphone. Everybody else is talking so much louder. And it's like, if you want to actually have a presence, you know, you need to raise your voice a little bit.
Well, not only that, but he's kind of got this whole one trick on the microphone where it's nothing but, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to punch you in the face. I'm Roman Reigns. Rah! So if you, like, maybe have a little more character than that. Like Paul Heyman's fed you possible character stuff. You're in the ring with Triple H, Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan. Try to have another trick up your sleeve.
And I like that face that he kept making.
Yeah,
like
it's almost like a sexy time face.
The what?
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly his De Niro face that he had a couple months ago, but I don't know. You know, Reigns may grow on me. I'm not really sure what's gonna happen yet, but I think they're starting to get it with him, and they might be able to get the crowd to slowly kind of come over to him. I think they're realizing that they maybe have to dial back how much they want to say, hey, like this guy.
So we talked about the Rollins-Bryan match, but obviously this leads to Roman Reigns taking on Daniel Bryan at FastLAne. This, to me, is a match I'm really looking forward to, regardless of the winner, simply because Roman Reigns has been taken care of a lot, and it's not often we get to see this type of match coming out of him. He's faced, big guys, guys like Kane and all that stuff, but now he's taking on a guy that's smaller. These are the matches that I usually like, the David and Goliath type thing, even though Roman Reigns isn't that tall. So how do you like the fact that they're doing this match? And it's effectively, for me, his first real singles match.
No, I completely agree. This is like his first high-profile match, and I think this is going to be a really good test for him. I mean, well, let's not forget about the fact that he did also face Randy Orton. So that was another type of match where, if you can't have a good match with this guy, then, you don't deserve to be in the business, basically. But this is another big test for Reigns, and, Bryan should be able to help him have a fantastic match. This is a great setup. You got high stakes, and basically, if you can't have a good match with Daniel Bryan, then you can't have a good match with anyone. And I expect this to probably be Roman Reigns' best singles match, without a doubt.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan 100% in this respect. I mean, with all the pressure that Roman Reigns is under right now, is there anybody better for him to be in the ring with in this situation than Daniel Bryan? But on the other side of it, like, what is this going to solve by Roman Reigns beating Daniel Bryan? Like, oh, hey, let's have the guy that everybody wants to be in the main event of WrestleMania get beat by the guy that everybody doesn't want to be in the main event of WrestleMania, and then, hey, everything will be okay, because I feel like they're just delaying the inevitable in this respect.
But that's what I actually like about it, because when he was facing Randy, that was more just like a general feud. They had Evolution, they had Shield, they had all these different things happening. But now the stakes are so high, because obviously the crowd is very much like John Cena, 50% booze, 50% cheer. So they haven't faced the guy that can get him completely booed out of the arena. So it's up to these guys to really have a match that, from a psychological standpoint, as a wrestling match, not only does it have to be good, but it's got to be able to sort of not pass the torch, because obviously these are two guys that are happening right now, but basically transition to whatever it is the WWE wants to do. Say they want to do Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Something needs to happen in this match where, number one, Bray still needs to look strong, obviously, because whatever match he has, he can't really go into it as a loser. And then Roman Reigns, you also got to think, okay, so he can do way more than just a spear, the Superman punch, so when he faces Brock Lesnar, we have a little bit more idea of what to actually expect.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people are going to be seriously invested in the outcome of this match. And even, if the crowd is sad that Bryan wins, I still think this is a way for Reigns to really prove himself. And if he has an awesome match with Daniel Bryan, then I think at least a lot of the WWE audience would gain a certain amount of respect for Reigns. I don't think he's quite earned that respect in his matches yet.
But going into the main event of WrestleMania is the feeling of, yeah, okay, I can live with that. The feeling you want to feel.
I think we'll get to that way more when we talk about the Stone Cold podcast, because that's the thing. We're not saying that Roman Reigns is going to main event SummerSlam or something, much like Brock did when he faced The Rock in 2002. We're talking WrestleMania, the grandest stage of them all. The stakes are so high. Plus, we got at the fact that we don't know if Brock Lesnar's coming back. This could be his last WWE match. So here's the guy that ended the streak, but maybe he's not coming back ever. He's going to do UFC. Maybe he's going to be back. We don't know what's going to happen, but the stakes are just so high for Reigns that you got to wonder what's going to happen if this fails. A similar guy that they tried to push was Sheamus. Sheamus was the guy that people could see something in. He was a very entertaining wrestler.
We called him Friday
physical.
Cena.
Exactly. It was very much similar. They had that cookie cutter type thing going on. What happened with Sheamus? They sort of completely demoted him before he got injured because there just wasn't anything else. Once they gave him the championship, once he was up there, it was empty. And I think that's what's going to happen with Roman Reigns. But that's just me.
But even Sheamus wasn't put into this high of a spot, too.
Exactly.
So these are even higher stakes with almost less of a catalog to really go off of, at least as a singles wrestler. So this is like a huge risk. And, we'll see what happens.
I would argue that this is the biggest thing that, this is the biggest spot somebody has ever been in. Somebody's been the guy, but now you're the guy that, has the legacy of beating the guy who beat the streak all at your back. It's really all in with whoever this is going to be.
I just pictured a Paul Heyman promo by you saying that. I beat the guy that beat the guy that's behind the guy.
It's a never-ending cycle now.
Yeah, but because we're going to get to that in the Stone Cold podcast thing, I do want to bring up another feud that was starting development on Raw, which was Dean Ambrose. So Dean, obviously, not the best Rumble performance. We've been wondering what's going to happen post-Bray Wyatt feud. And we have a very clear picture, which is that he's going to be going for the Intercontinental Championship. Personally, I think it's great because let Roman Reigns, let Seth Rollins, let Daniel Bryan be up there, because he's otherwise going to get lost in the shuffle. And if they're not going to go with a heel, terribly dark Dean Ambrose, then hey, just have him be fun, have him be say, I'm going to kick your ass, and then he's going to go against Bad News Barrett.
I think they found the perfect way to make Dean Ambrose going for a title make sense of hey, I saw a wall with a lot of champions on it. I want to be on that wall, so I'm going to go get a belt. And I think these guys have potentials to have really good matches, because if you think about it, their styles are pretty similar in a brawler, or not much of a technical thing, but more just brawling, beat the crap out of you. So yeah, I'm excited.
I think it's good. I mean, anything for Ambrose to do. He's been kind of just floating around for a couple weeks, so it's nice that they're kind of putting him into this Intercontinental Championship match. If it's going to last to WrestleMania, I don't know. I hope somehow this finds a way to lead to something at WrestleMania. But it's nice to see him kind of going for a championship and, just having a new thing to do, which is important because you can't really let that character go to waste, especially with how, hot he got just a couple of months ago.
Talking about that promo you mentioned, Keith, where he's mentioning, he wants a belt because other people have one, so he wants that. Did you guys like the fact that he was very direct? He was not as deranged as before. He's very much self-aware, like, okay, so those guys are doing this thing here. Oh, I want a championship, so I'll challenge a champion.
It always made me, whenever I think of Dean Ambrose, I always think to myself in the back of my head, like, he would play a really good Joker, like, as the Batman villain. It almost made me think of that, like, I see a goal and I want that goal, so I'm going to do what I have to do to get that goal. It may be kill the Bat. It may be get an IC title. You never know.
Where's the bad man? Get it?
Well, it is. Hold on.
Jokes.
But I think, in a way, Ambrose kind of has that flexibility. We talk a lot about how Bray Wyatt, where it's like the title almost doesn't matter to Bray Wyatt. He doesn't really care about that as much. Ambrose, I feel like you do have that flexibility of, he can want the title or he can not want the title. You could easily have a feud with Barrett where it's like the title's kind of secondary and it's more of a personal thing for whatever reason. But it also makes sense that in his craziness, he's also this egomaniac who wants to see himself, all over WWE headquarters just to spite them even. So it's cool that, he gives more reasons than just, I want the title. It's like, I want to be somebody in WWE. It's cool.
Because some men can't be rhymed or reasoned with. Some men just want to see the headquarters burn.
Somebody's been watching the trilogy, huh?
Always.
But regarding that, it's cool because obviously these feuds do not get as much development time, and I can't seem to talk this week, but there hasn't been a big thing going on between these two guys. So the fact that they're using the headquarters thing, the championship thing, it immediately makes it personal because Barrett can easily just go, hey, I'm the champion. I get that you want to be in the headquarters, you want to be champion, but I'm Bad News Barrett. I'm the champion, so focus on me because otherwise you're never going to get that championship. So I definitely think it has an opportunity to go all the way to WrestleMania. Do you guys think it will?
Nah, I think it's a FastLAne thing.
It has the potential.
I was all hyped.
But, I feel like sometimes they want to make all the WrestleMania matches almost either like first time type of matches or something special. Maybe it's a multi-man match. I don't know if they're just going to do an outright rematch. That seems a little like, the rematch is at WrestleMania. It's kind of weird to have it like that.
True. But then discussing another thing that I think will be happening at WrestleMania, the Rhodes brothers. We brought this up for months and months and months. Number one, that the WWE didn't really do anything with them. We literally got Stardust debuting, and then, 2-3 weeks later, he was on Main Event and Superstars. Just no development unless you had the WWE app, unless you had something like that. You wouldn't even know that Stardust was still a thing. So, obviously, for the longest time, we were talking about the fact that maybe they should just do the brother thing, and get it over with. But then 4 to 5 months later, now we're getting this. So on Raw, we saw that they didn't really turn on each other yet, but it's a week away. So, Stardust was pissed off. Goldust brought up Cody, that type of thing. Pretty cool. What do you think, Ryan?
I'm glad that it's happening. We all wanted this 2 years ago.
God, even longer than that.
And the thing is, there was a time where they were really going strong, but that was over a year ago. So now they kind of want to be like, oh, well, we need to fill a spot at WrestleMania. Let's finally pull the trigger on the Goldust Stardust thing long after everybody has already stopped caring. I wish the timing was better. I'm still happy that's happening, but it's it just seems like you don't care because you haven't been invested in them for X amount of months now.
Exactly. I think you summed it up perfectly. I don't doubt for a second they're going to have a great match. But I think I would have liked to see that match about 9 months to a year ago, give or take.
And if they had at least focused on the tag team at all, it would have been cool, when the Shield split up. Okay, I won't say they were going stale, but it got to a point where the Shield had nothing else to do. And okay, cool, so that turn happened. But with Gold and Stardust, nothing was happening at all. Maybe they were in some sort of like number one contenders tag match situation, but that was it. So now when people don't really care, now they're doing this. What do you think it will lead to eventually with Stardust? Because obviously he is Stardust. He's not Cody Rhodes, but we heard that Goldust brought up his brother. So will this become a thing where Goldust fades away and we have Stardust? Or will Cody Rhodes keep evolving? Because he's had a bunch of characters. Dashing, undashing, now he has this. What next?
What if it went the opposite way and Goldust went to Dustin Rhodes and Stardust couldn't go back to Cody or something like that? I mean, that'd be interesting because everyone would expect that Cody's going to go back to being Cody.
Gimmick on a pole match?
Yeah. But maybe they do something, how he's all mad about being called Cody, where he is stuck as Stardust and he can't snap out of it.
Do you think Stardust can actually exist on his own?
See, here's the thing, as a good man by the name of Ryan McNulty would say. He does a very good job of being entertaining with the promos, but there's no substance to them. Like a couple of months ago, we brought up the fact that Bray Wyatt, he always has these great promos, but we get it. Your character's weird. You're going to say weird things. What more? For the longest time we had that. Now we're getting a little bit different stuff. We'll get to the promo he cut on Raw. But with Stardust, Cosmic Key, we get it. You do all these cute things. It gets you over. It makes people see you as a standout thing. But is there anything else after that?
Not really.
Yep, I mean that's what I was hoping the Cosmic Key was going to be, but then it turned out to just be the tag titles, and that was the absolute last thing I wanted it to be, because maybe there was going to be more depth. So no, there really isn't anything other than crazy sayings.
See, here's an idea actually. We got Dashing Cody Rhodes, right, which is one of my favorite characters in the past couple of years. Something happened where he went dark, and that was awesome. They actually made a character better. I mean, Cody Rhodes, for all the pushes he has not gotten, he's done amazing things. What if they actually did that with Stardust, where he becomes paranoid, where people just keep referring to the fact that he's Cody, but he becomes this very dark character? I think that could actually work because he got rid of the gold paint, so now he's like silver and purple, changes every week. I could definitely see that happening.
No, absolutely. I think that's a direction they can actually go in this storyline. As far as what happens with Stardust after this storyline, we'll see what happens. But I do want to see the Stardust. It looks like he's obviously going to be the heel in this situation, and I think they could actually evolve the character to kind of be twisted and just delusional and, like I said, not be able to snap out of the fact that he is Cody. He's stuck as Stardust.
I really hope that happens. But as always, we got to wait till next week to really find out what they're going to be doing with that. The last thing I want to bring up about Raw specifically, Bray Wyatt. We've heard the rumors possibly facing The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Nothing confirmed, but this promo on Raw was referring to somebody. We just don't know who that somebody is. So number one, what do you think about this promo? Was it just another Bray Wyatt thing, or are you really looking forward to the next phase of his career?
I mean, with this promo, there's some serious hints that he's facing The Undertaker. I really don't think that they would air something like this and hint at this much if it wasn't a match that they were planning. And obviously there's been dirt sheets that have come out and said that it's a strong rumor that Bray Wyatt will face The Undertaker. So if it's that match, how do you guys feel about it?
I have to call myself out a bit on this one and say that I did not see the promo. I was probably making a snack during it, and I'm kind of depressed about that right now. But as far as do you want to see the match? Like, in theory, Bray Wyatt versus The Undertaker sounds amazing, like just from a promo work standpoint. But do I want to see that match in 2015? That becomes a bit of a gray area, because does The Undertaker really need to be around anymore now that the streak's over?
That's the question I think any wrestling fan has really had.
I'm a real
after
pessimist
because
this week, by the way. Just negative everywhere.
This is real talk this week here in the podcast, man, because I'll follow that up with another question for you guys that can really just sort of give us that answer. We've brought up Bray Wyatt versus The Undertaker. Is that going to happen? What about the fact that are we going to see another loss or another win from The Undertaker? I think that's what really gives us that answer. Can Bray Wyatt beat him? Because otherwise, what is the point of doing it? Undertaker has already lost. So him beating Bray Wyatt, I don't think does him any favors. But at the same time, do we want to add salt to the wounds and have Bray Wyatt beat The Undertaker? I can't even answer that right now.
There's no good answer to that, really.
That's the million-dollar question, really, is, like, what do you gain from that? It's just like, why didn't you do this match last year? I mean, I know this set up for Brock Lesnar's hellacious run this year, but this Bray Wyatt Undertaker thing, it's like, it's a little too late, where the whole thing of the streak is over now. So what can you really gain from it? And like you said, if Undertaker loses again, I mean, what does that say? You know, all of a sudden now that he loses once, he just loses all the time. Is it going to be at FastLAne instead so that it kind of protects the streak? Who knows?
I don't think there's a chance at that.
And the problem is the only positive thing I can see happening is maybe the promos. But honestly, we've gotten so many Bray Wyatt character promos. And realistically, Undertaker's promos are never like too long or something. And what can they do? Like, we get it. These are two mystical characters that are... It's kind of weird that they're in WWE in 2015, but they work. So that's great. But what else? Much like the other things I brought up in the podcast, I don't see it really being that enjoyable.
Is there any form of torch that The Undertaker could pass down to Bray Wyatt?
Powers, maybe, but... Do we really want to see that? Like maybe the Thunderbolt or something? Thunderbolt on a pole match?
Maybe he can pass down all the gimmick matches, like the casket matches, the buried alive matches, the Inferno matches.
He gives Bray Wyatt the ability to turn the lights off whenever he sees fit.
Because who else really does casket matches besides Kane and The Undertaker, you know?
Yeah.
That silence pretty much speaks... everything about that. So it's for those listening, I can't answer it. I don't know if it's because we've grown up with the streak and what happened last year, but I just cannot answer whoever it is The Undertaker faces. I don't care if it's Rob Conway coming back. I don't care if it's Shelton Benjamin, if it's Bray Wyatt. Can he afford another loss? And if he wins, what does that even mean anymore? So send us a tweet at ByteThatCast. And speaking of tweets, it's time for this week's Tweet of the Week!
That's right, folks. It's time to turn that frown. You take it, you shine that sumbitch up and turn it upside down because it's money shot time. All right. Now that we got that out of the way. This week's tweet of the week is from the IWC on Twitter. The entire community apparently sent in this tweet. It's at the __ two underscores here, IWC. This week's tweet of the week is JBL says he calls it Wyatt's flock. More like Braven's flock. Am I right? Hashtag raw.
Tweet of the week! I miss Tweet of the Week so much, Keith. I love you, man.
I love you too.
Thanks for that beautiful Tweet of the Week. Remember, people, you can follow us on Twitter by looking us up at ByteThatCast. Remember to check out the YouTube channel where this week Fight Night comes back. It's Ryan and myself. We provide a spot for these men that the WWE does not hire. In a video game, we do that. We have a lot of good time. That's going to be back. We're going to have way more stuff happening in the YouTube channel, as well as we're going to have a giveaway. Because, it's WrestleMania. It's the time to give. We got something. I got something. The honeymoon. My wife was upset because I was working on Byte That stuff during that.
Something
but
about a
you
money
know what?
shot.
I love you guys. I won't even make reference to that right now. But yeah, basically, stay tuned. We got an awesome giveaway. It's going to be over at our website, bytethat.com. By the way, we got to take just a quick moment to thank each and every one of you for listening, really, because last week's episode, highest downloaded episode ever. On YouTube, we got over 3,000 downloads as of this video on iTunes, Stitcher, and all that. So thank you. If you like the podcast, if you want to support us, just leave a review, subscribe on the channel, do whatever you want, but keep being awesome.
You're
it's really,
our
really
money
an awesome
shot.
experience.
We love you.
Keith apparently loves you too much. He's got to reload. But yeah, now we didn't get a pick of the week, but we do want to bring up something that was happening on the WWE Network. It's a new show called WWE 24, which is where they sort of go behind the scenes, talk about something. So this first episode was about WrestleMania 30. So taking it to you, Keith, what was your impression going into this, and do you think this should keep going?
My impression going into it was pure excitement because this is exactly what I want from the WWE Network, this kind of backstage look into how the entire system operates. Like, we get to see that little bit behind the curtains, and they delivered pretty good at that. My only complaint for WWE 24 would be that it's only a half an hour long. It really feels like this show should be an hour because they kind of crammed the whole thing into it, but it was cool to see some of the things they displayed, like Charlotte I can't say her name right now, Sasha Banks,
Charlotte.
and their reaction to being Triple H's in Triple H's entrance and that kind of thing. What did you think?
Yeah, it was really cool. I enjoyed it. I will agree with what you said. 30 minutes doesn't really give you a lot of time because we saw this epic emotional hug between Vince McMahon and The Undertaker before he came out for his match, but then we don't really get to see much of what happened after. Obviously, they can keep doing more episodes about this, but for example, this episode is titled WrestleMania 30. So when you title it like that, what do I expect? I expect a full experience behind the scenes. What's really happening here? But 30 minutes, man, it's not too much. Ryan, I know you haven't watched it, but based on what we've sort of been saying, do you think that this is more of what the network needs?
Absolutely. I mean, this along with the podcast, which I know we're going to talk about, is kind of gives you that inside look that I think a lot of the hardcore fans who subscribe to the network are looking for. I actually kind of like the fact that this sounds like it's a half an hour, makes it easy to just kind of watch quickly. Although what it seems like you guys have, viewing it is that it kind of leaves you wanting more, which, I'll have to see for myself, but it does sound really cool, and I'll have to check it out.
You brought up a pretty interesting thing I didn't consider, which is, the network has pay-per-views, Raw, SmackDowns, but obviously all of it is an hour plus, 3 to 4 hours, depending if you're watching WrestleMania. So maybe that's why they did the 30 minutes, because
but then just make it like
not
a
lot of short
two-parter,
content.
so everybody wins.
There could be a part 2.
I don't think so. At WrestleMania, they wrapped that up pretty good.
Deny.
Well, either way, like Juan said, there's not a lot of 30-minute quick, to watch shows. So maybe they're just going for that. And, because a lot of wrestling shows are super time demanding, far more than any other program.
Yep.
So it's kind of nice that they have something that's a half hour.
Now, getting to the show that's not half an hour, this is the nitty gritty. This is where expectations were high. I would say that Raw was a 3-hour promo for this, the lead up to this, which is a Stone Cold podcast that was on the WWE Network. It took place immediately after Raw. So right off the bat, it was a 4-hour commitment. Over 4 hours, because Stone Cold wasn't satisfied with the thing. He wanted an extra 5 to 10 minutes because obviously Vince got some, so Triple H has got to get some. How was the waiting of watching Raw and then knowing that's now we got another hour? Was the expectation met between what was shared between Triple H and Stone Cold? Yeah,
I mean, I think this was sort of like a special 4th hour, because it wasn't like the 3rd hour Raw where you're tired of it. Knowing what the Vince McMahon interview was like, I was willing to stay up for that fourth hour because I knew exactly what to expect, and I felt like those expectations were met.
Didn't Raw almost kind of do it a disservice because they were trying to like lump it in with kayfabe, where Triple H was going on there like, yeah, I'm going to manipulate everybody and I'm going to tell Austin what I think right now.
We were watching Raw together, and I was so worried about that because you had Michael Cole, JBL just bring it up, John Cena, and I'm just thinking, like, are they really hyping this up so much when it's not kayfabe? Because Triple H was a very big part of that episode. So was he just going to go sit with Stone Cold and be like, look at these kids, friggin' Roman Reigns
damn
and all
millennials.
that? That's stupid, man. Yeah, them lazy millennials, man. But no, we actually got like this kayfabe, non-kayfabe thing. And how weird was it that Triple H just goes backstage and Stone Cold's just chilling back there? You know, they show the camera angle. So
It was
just
jarring.
there.
I mean, think about, you know, Vince made an appearance on the Raw that he did the Stone Cold podcast, right?
Yeah, it was a very brief
But
appearance.
Triple H was a part of the whole show. So to have Triple H be a part of the entire Raw and then immediately it's like character off and now it's the real Triple H, it was a little jarring. It wasn't as bad with Vince where he just kind of made an appearance here and there. But either way, it's like we knew what to expect. So, you know, that kind of went away quickly. It was just the initial first few minutes, you're like, whoa, is he in character? Is he out of character? Okay, he's out of character. And, like, we can just enjoy the interview for what it is now.
And I got to bring up the first part of that interview because obviously there are a lot of things he brought up, and I'm going to try to bring up as many as I can with the time we have left. But that was our worry, right? Is he going to be kayfabe? Is he going to not be kayfabe? But the first topic that they discussed is basically this thing that's happening right now, which is that wrestling has changed so much that Triple H brought up. Do people care more about the storyline or the behind the scenes of that storyline? I mean, think about us right now. We're talking about a podcast, and when Roman Reigns, this whole push is happening, do we care about what's happening behind the scenes as to why that's happening? Or do we care more about just the push that is happening? And when he mentioned that, it really boggles your mind because it's like wrestling is a thing that you get so invested into that you almost got to like force yourself to step back a little bit.
Well, exactly. Storylines are not taken at face value anymore. People want to know why this is happening. Why is this guy why is this guy getting a push and not this guy? So what's going on behind the story nowadays is almost as important as the story itself. At least that's how the fans see it.
It's one of those things that it's kind of like a aftershock that social media has left on wrestling, because now it's not just 2 hours a Monday night where you get to watch these things progress. It's something that you can follow 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you get invested in it from that respect.
Simple question and kind of weird. Did Zack Ryder and CM Punk have a lot to do with the reason why we think this way? Obviously, I bring up Zack Ryder because the True Long Island Story was very much just him on the side doing all these things, and then with CM Punk, we had the pipe bomb.
I think Zack Ryder almost definitely, because that's what sort of sparked WWE investing themselves into social media. And then when WWE creates its own worldwide discussion platform through Twitter, then it's very easy for backstage news and stuff to spread immediately. It's like Triple H said in the podcast, everybody's a smart fan now. Everybody knows the backstage stuff, even sometimes more so than people who work there. So Zack Ryder kind of being that catalyst for WWE's social media has basically made everybody a smart fan now.
But WWE has also not done themselves any favors in that respect, because I can even think of a couple times where like the WWE.com Twitter account broke things during Raw while it was happening. Like during Brock Lesnar and Triple H's feud a couple years ago, the WWE Twitter account tweeted like, hey, look who's backstage. It's Brock Lesnar, before anybody knew Brock was back there. So they're not doing themselves any favors. But yes, to go back to your question, Juan, I do think things like Zack Ryder and CM Punk really started them along that path.
Yeah, so the next thing I got to bring up is the whole Roman Reigns situation. Obviously, a good portion of this podcast was talking about that. And the thing that Triple H mentioned was, is he ready? Is Roman Reigns ready? Because that has been the discussion in this podcast, on Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Oh, they should be Daniel Bryan because he was ready last year, but he got injured. But Roman Reigns is not ready. So Triple H's argument was, when is a guy ready? Now, obviously, I want to make a quick note. It's kind of interesting that it's Stone Cold and Triple H in this interview, who are arguably two of the biggest guys of all time. So maybe they're not like the best example of when is a guy ready, but yeah.
But against that point, Triple H straight up said, like, if they were going to give me the ball when they were going to give me the ball, I would have fumbled it. So for everything that he said about, well, maybe Roman is ready, what makes Roman Reigns not in that situation that Triple H was in 1996?
And similarly enough, back in 96, if Stone Cold had not happened, the amount of weight on Triple H's shoulders would have been crazy. And fast forward to right now, Roman Reigns basically has everything on the line. So, yeah, I find that really interesting and kind of annoying because I get that Triple H is a company man, so obviously he's got to be very careful with what he says. But a lot of it did seem like it was justified, like with Vince McMahon. Oh, these lazy millennials. I mean, we're not backstage, so we cannot confirm or deny any of that stuff. But when it comes to that, like the guy being ready, guess what? There have been other guys in that situation. Like when John Cena, I think, is a good example. You know, we've made the comparisons. We've tweeted like this amazing picture about Phantom Menace that was shared on Squared Circle.
The best picture.
Yeah, it was amazing. But basically with Cena, as much as I didn't like him in that moment when he, when he faced Big Show, won the U.S. Championship, and you could tell, he was going to be moving up the ladder, I could tell he was ready, even if I didn't really like the character. Another thing he brought up was obviously NXT. That's his baby. Stone Cold mentioned he watches the show. He loves it. Triple H talks about that one of the goals is to bring it on the road. And even though it's developmental, he likes the fact that it's an alternate brand, that because the network has this more dedicated audience, obviously they demand a little bit more serious storyline, a little bit more wrestling, focus on the word wrestling. So do you guys think NXT would do awesome on the road, or should it be just like its thing down in Florida?
I really actually like NXT to just stay in Full Sail because I think that Full Sail crowd is a huge part of what makes NXT NXT. And, it's like taking ECW out of the bingo hall. That was such an integral part of that brand.
But that being said, though, say there was an NXT show coming to Boston, would you buy a ticket?
Absolutely.
And
so I know
there's your answer.
Yes, I would buy a ticket.
No, but yes.
But that doesn't mean, I guess if you do small venues, you're going to get the hardcore fans from around the area. So we'll see. I'm not going to outright deny it. It seems like it is naturally the next step for them to take. So yes, I'm open to it, but I really do love that Full Sail crowd, and I'd hate to see that not still be a regular thing.
But at the end of the day, you got to think that it's a developmental territory. So one of the biggest things that wrestlers hear, or that you hear all the time, is that wrestlers say the hardest part about being a wrestler is being on the road. So if they can simulate that experience, maybe not to the same degree, that would be beneficial to the developmental talent.
Also, the fact that they do a lot of live events in the Florida area already. So maybe they just do live events around the country and then the TV's always at Full Sail. That could also work too.
And definitely. And I think that the goal maybe with NXT is even to just get more subscribers to the network, because it can become its own alternate brand and you got to subscribe to it. And I know that some people listening, in regards to what you mentioned, Ryan, with the Full Sail audience, a lot of people made fun of the Impact Zone because of that, because that audience was very consistent. But keep in mind, that audience was the majority of people that didn't know anything about the characters or about the wrestlers. All they knew was it was free wrestling. I'm at Universal Studios, so might as well have some fun with it. So I'm on the boat where I don't want the product, the TV product, to be on the road. I think that should still be in Florida. That should still be the main focus there, and just have a good time. Now, I got to bring up something fun. China and the Hall of Fame. How was that?
That was the most political, well-spoken answer I've ever heard in my life.
It was amazing.
It was incredible.
Yes, he danced around that pretty well. Gave the good answer. If he doesn't want his kid typing in Google and typing in China, and seeing what comes up, because I assure you, folks, it is not worth it. Make sure your safe search is on if you ever do it.
And it's not pretty either.
Yeah. So I don't blame them. WWE wants to look good. They want their Hall of Fame to have integrity. And, they can't really have porn stars in the Hall of Fame if they want to stay PG and family friendly. So it is what it is.
It kind of goes with the point that Triple H mentioned regarding sponsors. Obviously, Stone Cold brought up the whole over-scripting promos, not giving people flexibility. So regarding that, Triple H mentioned, we got sponsors. You got to be very careful with all that. So I think this really ties into that, where it's a company image. It's an international company, known worldwide. So it is just funny how he was stuttering so much. The whole interview, he was so relaxed, so calm.
And then he just went instantly on guard.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, Keith, that response was amazing. It was like political, but in the best way possible.
That is a man who has had some PR training in his lifetime.
It was absolutely amazing, man. Oh, by the way, so Triple H mentioned he would like Raw to be 2 hours. What's your take on that, Ryan?
I completely agree with him. I've heard more than enough reports from, whether it's Dave Meltzer or whoever, talking about how ratings have declined because of the 3 hours. People are kind of getting burnt out. They can develop stories better, have more of a story of beginning to end, nice and tightly woven in 2 hours. I think it's a lot easier for them to do. It's not only the audience getting tired from the 3 hours, it's also the writers, I'm sure, having to write that extra hour every week. So I am completely on board for that. I was actually very surprised to hear Triple H say that. You'll never hear him saying that when they're live on USA, though.
Indeed, but God, just think about that extra hour on Monday and how magical that is.
So much. We could hypothetically do the podcast if you wanted. Just so many things for just rest. It's so nice. I miss Raw being 2 hours.
I'm going to pretend you didn't say that.
Yeah. It would still end at 11. It would just start at 9.
I keep forgetting that. Right. Damn it. It would be so perfect, though. But, just the third hour is always long. It always feels like it's stretching out too much. I don't know. I've never really been a big fan of it.
Getting tired just thinking about it.
Yep.
Exactly. I'm falling asleep right now just thinking of that third hour. But... okay, so the last thing I got to bring up is WWE mixing kayfabe with reality. I sort of brought this up at the beginning, but keep in mind that on their YouTube channel, WWE uploaded a clip about the Vince McMahon interview before this interview, where they talk specifically about the streak, why it ended. So this completely breaks kayfabe. And then obviously... Raw promoted this podcast. I mean, the entire episode of Raw is like, oh, Triple H is going to be on the show. What happens if little Jimmy, that gets the network, listens to this interview and it's like, hey, Santa Claus ain't real, man. Check out what Triple H is saying.
It's kayfabe. Whoa. That's what would happen.
You break in Christmas kayfabe on me right now. we don't know if we have younger listeners on this show.
Well, okay, so what I mean is the Santa Claus in the mall, that's just like Uncle Joe, okay? So like the real Santa Claus only comes out on December 25th. So I just wanted to clarify that. I'm sorry, parents. But yeah, just what do you guys think about that? Is this, personally, I love this route, but isn't it interesting? I know we brought up Breaking Bad, but it's almost like if we get Walter White, but in the next scene, we just get Bryan Cranston. We just get the actor behind the character, and then we're back in the character. It's kind of weird.
It's like Triple H said, kayfabe's dead, and it's just best to call it like it is and not to insult the audience. And I also like how Triple H talked about how you can't really get away with having things that are going on backstage be contrary to what happens on TV. If Daniel Bryan is really married to Brie Bella, you have to acknowledge it now on TV because the audience already knows about it. So I really just think They have to do that. And if kids, parents go to explain to their kids about what's going on, so be it. I feel like a lot of problems in America have come from the fact that parents are just too lazy to explain to their kids about crap. Just explain it to them, take a couple minutes, and get over it.
Exactly. Never mind things like the obesity rate and Obamacare. The Easter Bunny's the real problem, damn it.
As someone who has no kids, I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh man, I love you too, Ryan. It's been amazing. But yeah, before we close out the show, so we got the podcast, we got all of this stuff, but we also have a couple of questions. The first one came from YouTube by the user Noah Young. So Ryan, could you take us away with that first question?
Hold on. Before we go there,
what?
Say somebody had a question, like something right about now popped into their mind. Where could they send those questions to, Juan?
Oh, well, they can send them to bytethatcast@gmail.com or send us a tweet at bytethatcast.
Now on to your question.
Yay! All right. Question number 1 from Noah Young via the YouTubes. So that is also another place that you can ask a question.
You can also send me snail mail.
Yes, or send a Snapchat. Just kidding. We're not giving that away. Just a question for next week's show. NXT TakeOver 4 is 11 days away before the B pay-per-view extravaganza FastLAne. Will the WWE put any effort to trying to compete with it, or will they let NXT outshine WWE's pay-per-view for the second time in a row?
It's a good question. And I mean, if you really want to break it down, do you think do you think Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn is going to be a better match than Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns? And I think that answer is by a long shot. So yes, it is going to outshine it.
Pretty much that. I mean, when your main event is the indie darling on a pole match, you have a Divas Fatal 4-Way match that's pretty awesome. You're building up all this. You got Solomon Crow, who may be debuting because they've been playing those vignettes as like somebody's hacking NXT. It's really hard not to make NXT TakeOver look better than FastLAne. Maybe from a storyline perspective, FastLAne may be superior, but from a pure wrestling product standpoint, I don't think there's any contest.
See, as all of us are between the ages of 18 and 35 and are adult males, I think NXT, like Triple H said on the podcast, is very much geared towards the hardcore wrestling fan, the adult male. And, this card is built and bred for us to enjoy. And that's why I think for a lot of us, it is going to completely outshine FastLAne. But there may be other people that, they enjoy WWE's product because they're more invested in the WWE characters. So to them, FastLAne may actually be a better pay-per-view. But me personally, I have complete confidence that NXT will once again outshine WWE on, in the same pay-per-view month. Next question.
Indeed. All right. This question comes from Twitter, twitter.com/ByteThatCast from J4 Gaming, which is J4 Gaming YT on Twitter. Now this is a question. It's a hell of a question. I couldn't hype this up anymore. It's just a hell of a question. If you had to choose one wrestler of any time to be your pet, who would it be and why?
Who would it be, Ryan?
I think that's the real question. Why?
Oh, man. I don't have an answer. I'm going to come up with one right off the top of my head. So we're going to keep it PG here, okay?
Yes.
Some people can probably have some outright disgusting answers, and we're not going there.
Rikishi.
So...
imagine cleaning that mess up.
Okay, my answer would be Stone Cold Steve Austin. All right, because anytime something isn't going my way, I feel like Steve Austin's a guy who get things done. You're going to a store, they ran out of what you're looking for, what you want to purchase. You have Stone Cold chew them out, and I feel like something's getting done. Stone Cold is a man who gets things done, and I feel like that would be very advantageous to basically have like a pocket Stone Cold, and that if like somebody Stunner. family reunion, stunners all around. That's my answer.
I'm overthinking this question, but like when you say pet, I'm thinking so the pet has a little house, a leash. So like, are you hanging out with Stone Cold or like what do you feed him?
Is it a little Stone Cold, like a little Stone Cold man, or is it like an animal that takes on the traits of Stone Cold?
Does he get his own
like
room? Is he in a
Cold.
cage?
Is his name Pebble Cold at that point?
Have you cleaned his cage, Ryan?
What's in that cage?
What?
Just empty beer cans and feces.
Oh man, I love this question so much. For me, I would probably say the Undertaker, just because it would be amazing. I could have the lights go out instead of using a clap on, clap off. I can just tell him to turn the lights off. He's already dead, so long term, it's a good pet to have. You can have it for the rest of your life. Sustainability is a pretty good thing here. And then you don't need to feed him because he's dead. So, I mean, it's an economically adequate answer to that question.
All right, there's some logic there. All right, my answer is going to be Scott Steiner. You just put that in your yard. You never have to worry about the mailman, your neighbors, just anybody going by. Just drop Steiner math right on those. Right on those. If you call
the next 10 minutes, you get the dog face grumbling half off.
Exactly.
I have no sympathy for you, Keith.
It's basically 160-something% guaranteed to work.
Everybody wants to know what your pet is.
And if your neighbor has like front lawn flamingos, you'll just crush them.
Oh man. Thank you so much for that question. I needed that. But I'm just thinking about Undertaker as a pet. I want that to happen.
Mm-hmm. And a quick shout out to Mr. Cody. How do you say that last name? Collier?
Cody Collier.
Collier. Thank you for your question. We did receive it, but it was so good that it might be bigger than a question. Ooh.
It's still a question, though.
It was a great question. Thank you for it.
Yeah, but basically, we got some other stuff that's going to be happening in the YouTube channel, and your question is a good idea of something we want to work for that. So that's going to be its own separate video over there. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to the channel for everything else. Mr. McNulty, take it away.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for joining us once again for another edition of the Byte That podcast. So before we end the show, just a few quick things to go over. As Juan just said, hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. As Juan mentioned earlier, we got an episode of Fight Night coming up this week. Fight Night returns. It is going to be awesome. We had way too much fun making it, so you don't want to miss that. So that is this Thursday. And as usual, follow our social media, our Twitter @ByteThatCast, and like us on Facebook, facebook.com. I'm looking at Juan and I'm laughing. I'm still going, baby. Facebook.com/ByteThatCast.
I'm hilarious.
I'm still going. All right. Everything else, hey, we got a little thing called ByteThat.com, which is going to have a giveaway soon during WrestleMania season. So thanks again for listening. We'll see you guys next week.
Oh man, what a train wreck. Oh my god.